Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
Hello, this is your host, Bill Wynn. Thank you for joining me for another hour of exciting marketing conversation. Today, we're going to be talking about calculating customer economics, a really important topic both in digital and traditional marketing. Obviously, digital has really changed the game in terms of what is possible and what is expected in calculating customer economics these days. Before I get to that topic, I just want to remind everyone of our next event coming up on Wednesday, January 17th is Trends in Restaurant Marketing. This is taking place at 7:30 a.m. It is a morning event at Fruitcraft Tasting Room and Kitchen. We've got some outstanding guests from Carl Strauss, Burger Lounge, Urban Plates, and Broken Yoke. And they'll have a ton of insights, not only that are applicable to restaurant marketing, but to a variety of other areas as well. So please join us for that event. I think it'll be pretty interesting. So joining me at this time is Stephen Bellach. He is a principal at Bottom Line Marketing. Good morning, Stephen.
Good morning.
And I know Stephen through our Cause conference, which just took place late last year. Stephen was helpful in running the communications function for that conference and was critical in putting more than 300 butts in seats for that event. So, Stephen, thank you for volunteering and pitching in on that.
No, you're welcome. It was a fantastic event.
Yeah, it was from all accounts. I unfortunately missed it, but I heard rave reviews. So I'm glad you pitched in. So, Stephen, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your business, Bottom Line Marketing.
Yeah, so Bottom Line Marketing, we're a brand and marketing strategy firm. So we really help our small to mid-sized clients understand their consumers and understand their competition, so they could really develop the most highly differentiated messaging that's going to break through all the clutter out there in the marketplace. My background, I've actually spent 25 years on the client side. So I was the head of marketing at places like Jenny Craig and ProFlowers.com and Tropicana Juices. And I've been helping clients for the past 10 to 12 years with my partner to help them grow their businesses. And I'm excited about today's topic because a lot of organizations don't really think about customer economics when they're building their marketing plans and, frankly, their business model.
Sure. Okay. And so I know from talking with you before and from what you just said that your expertise revolves around both branding and strategy, right? So where does customer economics fit into that world?
Yeah, it's very interesting because customer economics is really further upstream. We actually go into many client engagements and tell them not to stop their marketing activities, but maybe pull back until we really understand what is the value of a customer to you. And what can you truly afford to pay to acquire a customer? I was mentioning to you the other day, it's interesting, just for example, Shark Tank. I'm sure everybody out there has seen an episode or two. And one of the first questions, many of the sharks ask is, what's your customer acquisition cost? Which to me isn't really the right question. Because if you know your acquisition cost, that's great, but it may not actually be what it should be. And that's where the deep analysis has to come in to understand what can you truly afford to pay to acquire a customer based upon the economics of your business. And that's going to be unique to every business based upon your costs, your overhead, and all the other pieces of the finance.
Okay. And so if you're a marketer, are you supposed to just pull this number out of a hat, right? Or how do you come up with this number?
Well, it's probably sounds more complex than it is. And actually one of the real values of going through the exercise is it does help align the marketing and finance functions. I mean, I can't tell you how many CFOs and CEOs we speak to who are constantly wondering, what am I getting in return for my marketing investment? I just see marketing and sales dollars walking out the door. What are we getting in return for it? So it becomes a marketing and finance exercise to really work through the P&L to understand what is the lifetime value of a customer, and then ultimately what is the customer acquisition cost target for your particular organization.
Okay, and so obviously finance and the CFO are kind of beneficiaries of this calculation, right? I mean, they get some sense that we're actually going to generate a return on our investment in marketing, but can finance actually support the calculation of this number?
Absolutely, and it really becomes, in organizations I've been in where it's successful, finance actually drives the analysis. Because if you're sitting in a management level meeting and marketing says, well, our acquisition cost should be $10, he's going to look at the CFO and say, is that correct? The CEO doesn't believe the marketing guy when you talk about numbers. So it really needs to be a mutually owned number between marketing and finance. And then it becomes a simpler process for the organization when they're spending money. Because if we know what our acquisition cost is, and if we're actually hitting that through our marketing activities, suddenly, finance has more confidence in what marketing is doing, the CEO believes in what they're doing, and it becomes a much stronger joint relationship.
Okay. And let's maybe talk a little bit about how to calculate it. Okay. What are all the things that go into cost of customer acquisition?
There are really two components. One is you need to start out with lifetime value, and I kind of call lifetime value, even though it's really kind of lifetime revenue. And when we say lifetime, in most consumer businesses, maybe you look at a 3-year time frame. So you really want to understand what is the value from a revenue perspective of a customer to my organization. So we'll typically do with a client, and I'll give you an example. We were working with a community health center. So you're in a medical context several years ago, and we said, let's go back to 2012, maybe the first quarter of 2012. And we said, let's look at the patients acquired, new patients that were acquired during that first quarter of 2012, and track that cohort for the subsequent 3 years. And let's figure out what is the average revenue per patient over that 3-year period. So it's a pretty simple exercise, but finance has to be able to supply those numbers to you to believe whether it's $200, $300, $400, whatever the value of that patient to you is. It can also be a valuable exercise in understanding the value of customers acquired through different channels. For example, I used to be the head of marketing at proflowers.com, and we discovered that the value of a customer acquired through radio or some other more visual channel was higher than somebody acquired through a deal on yahoo.com, on the Yahoo homepage. So it allowed us to understand the value of customers acquired through different channels so we could start to segment our marketing activities more effectively.
For the edification of our listeners, can you explain why those differences might exist, right? Why a customer coming in through one channel might be worth more than a customer coming in through another?
That's a great question. I'll give, for the context of proflowers.com, when somebody was able to listen to a 60-second radio ad, they really were delivered our true value proposition in terms of flowers delivered direct from the grower. They were fresher flowers, would last 7 days, 7-day freshness guarantee. So they got more of our story and of our key differentiators. Whereas if you have a $19.99 dozen roses text link on Yahoo, that's a consumer who's just buying a deal. So they're not as likely to come back because they really haven't experienced the entire proposition. So for whatever reason, sometimes channels may, deliver different values. So if you have the data available, and generally that data is housed between marketing and finance, it could be a much stronger analysis. Okay,
so let's talk a little bit about. Well, first of all, is this a calculation that we can apply to both, say, B2C and B2B type of businesses?
Absolutely. And one of the key things, and I'll get into the customer acquisition cost target in a minute, but one of the key things is also understanding your conversion rates. So, for example, in a B2B environment, it may be more about lead generation. So if you understand, for example, the value of a new customer to you, and or a new client in that case, and then you back into maybe a customer acquisition cost, let's say it's $500 you could pay to acquire a customer. Well, if you know that your conversion from lead to a sale is 50%, well, then you back into $250 a lead, and then you can maybe even back into, incoming calls. What's the conversion from a call to a lead? So the more data you have, the more precise you can be in terms of what you can afford to pay for various marketing activities.
Okay. Let's talk about attribution, right? Obviously, for this to work, we've got to have a really solid understanding of where all of our leads are coming from and which ones are converting, right? So help our listeners understand, first of all, what attribution is. And we've talked about it on this show and, in our events and our content, hundreds of times, right? But just in case we've got somebody new listening to the show, explain what attribution is and why it's important.
Attribution, of course, it's getting more and more complex because the typical consumer who actually purchases a product, they've rarely just kind of gone to Google and searched for your product and purchased it. Maybe they've seen a PR article and it kind of spurred their interest in the product. Maybe they heard about it from a friend. Maybe they saw some kind of a digital ad or they read a blog. And it may be 4 or 5 touch points before they actually come to purchase the product. And it gets complicated from an attribution perspective because each of those activities, in theory, drove the sale. But in most businesses, we use what last click attribution, which is what was the last activity before they actually purchased. And from a tracking perspective, that's what most businesses can only do. There are some much more complex models out there, and then it becomes basically a decision on how much do we want to invest in these outside models. You could spend $20,000 a month to evaluate attribution, but if you're an early stage startup, you may not have the resources to do that. So ultimately, it's an internal decision whether you want to use last click. Some organizations, if they are able to track the path to getting to the sale, they just allocate it equally across those channels. So it really depends upon the organization and how you want to handle it.
Okay, let's wrap there for our first segment. When we return after the break, we'll continue the discussion on calculating customer economics or customer acquisition economics, and we'll talk more about how you go about doing this calculation. You're listening to This Week in Marketing with AMA San Diego.
A podcast or radio show on WS Radio is a great way to create content marketing. Turn prospects into customers into raving fans. Contact Wade at WSRadio.com or call 866-WS-RADIO.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine Show on Vin Village Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect.
I raised $8,000 to build schools for South African children.
After realizing how many people go hungry in San Diego, I now volunteer at a food pantry.
I'm spending the next year doing volunteer projects across 3 countries and helping in ways they designate to be the most helpful.
The World Link program at the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice recognizes the potential of youth as agents of social change. Learn how you can help youth become a generation of leaders in action at peace.sandiego.edu.
One person has the power to change the world, impact millions of lives, and leave a legacy for lifetimes to come. That person is you. In the New York Times bestseller, What is Your What? Steve Olsher, award-winning author and founder of the Reinvention Workshop, reveals his proven process that has helped thousands of men and women discover, share, and monetize the one thing they were born to do. Grab your free copy now at www.whatisyourwhat.com/free. That's www.whatisyourwhat.com/free.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
Small businesses are the lifeblood of America's economy. Every Thursday, SBA Radio interviews industry professionals and is dedicated to provide small businesses with timely insights and innovations. Visit www.sbaradio.us for details.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
Welcome back. This is your host, Bill Wynn. I'm talking today with Stephen Bellach, a principal at Bottom Line Marketing. We're talking about calculating customer economics. So before the break, we discussed lifetime value. We talked a little bit about attribution. So, Stephen, let's talk more about how people go about calculating customer acquisition economics.
Right, and the critical piece here is the acquisition cost. I've actually worked with several clients who have agencies on hand, whether a digital marketing agency or an ad agency. And one of the first questions I ask is, has the agency asked you what your acquisition cost should be? And they say, well, no, they're telling us how many eyeballs we got and with however they measure ROI. And my response is, you may need to find another agency because they love spending your money without any accountability. And that's where customer acquisition costs can really become important. And it can get fairly complex, and I'll try to keep it simple for the audience here. But acquisition cost starts to take your lifetime value and then understanding what is the cost associated with that revenue you've generated, and then backing out how much profit you need to make to understand what's left for you to be able to spend in marketing to invest to acquire a customer. So here's a kind of an example that I'll give you. And it was actually a pharmaceutical company we worked with several years ago. And what we had them do to track lifetime value, as I mentioned before, is they went back to a cohort for the first quarter of 2014. These are their patients that were acquired. And they determined that their average revenue per patient was about $400. And this was looking at the number of prescriptions written per patient and then the average revenue per prescription. So it generated about $400 in value.
Over that time period?
Over that 3-year time frame.
Okay.
All right, so they took that cohort, first quarter 2014, and tracked them for 3 years through the end of 2016. What we then did is went and looked at their cost structure associated with generating that $400 in revenue. And this is where it's unique to every business. You need to understand, what is your unit of revenue? So in this case, the unit of revenue is a prescription, which may be $30 or $100, whatever it might be. A unit of revenue, for example, when I was head of marketing at Jenny Craig, was a visit to a center, and people bought food or whatever, so maybe it was $100 unit of revenue. At proflowers.com, unit of revenue was a sale on the website, so maybe that was $40 or $50. So you need to understand, what is that unit of revenue, and then what is the economics around that unit of revenue. So you know the revenue. Now, what is the cost associated with that? So in this case with the pharmaceutical, over that 3-year time frame, we looked at what was the total number of prescriptions written over that time frame. So it was millions of prescriptions. So let's say it was 1 million, just to use round numbers. Then we looked at their P&L over those three years. So what was their cost structure from a cost of goods, from an overhead perspective? This is where we kind of variabilize fixed costs, which is finance people hate, but is important for the analysis. So we look at their R&D costs, their manufacturing costs, all the various pieces, and you divide it into the number of prescriptions. So let's say it was $300 million in a cost over 1 million prescriptions. So it's $300 per prescription. That's actually very high, but whatever it calculates to be for the example, you then take the revenue associated with a prescription, back out the cost, back out maybe how much profit you need to make, which might be 12 or 15%, whatever the profit margin target for the organization is, and whatever's left is your marketing expense, or what you could afford to spend to acquire a customer. So in this case, the average revenue generated for a new patient over that 3-year time frame was about $400. The cost associated was about $220. Their profit target was 15%, so that's about $60. So it becomes a very simple calculation. So you take out the $400, less the $60 profit, less the $220 cost, there's about $140 left to spend on marketing.
Okay.
And that becomes their target. So then you work with the agencies to say, okay, now as we're looking at digital marketing, as we're looking at TV, as we're looking at all these channels, are we actually hitting that $140 cost per new customer or cost per new patient? Because if you're spending more than that, you're losing money because you're not generating the revenue or the profit to cover the cost of that acquisition.
Okay, and so I imagine in that case that you are looking at the economics of each of those individual channels to figure out is each of them capable of producing that? I think you said $140, right? $140 cost per customer acquisition. They have to be looked at in isolation, correct?
Exactly. Now, assuming the data is available, you can drill down into each channel and determine which activities are actually hitting your target. And this was, just to jump back to my experience at proflowers.com, I was actually there during the big .com bust. And one of the reasons we survived is because we had the data available for each of our marketing channels to know which ones were hitting our target at the time from an acquisition cost. So it became a fairly simple exercise. I could jettison the activities that were not as efficient, and I could keep the ones that were actually profitable. Thankfully, kind of the advertising markets collapsed at the same time, so the cost came way down, and we were able to survive the bust and regroup and start to grow at a very rapid pace over the subsequent few years. Mm-hmm. So as the head of marketing at a place like ProFlowers, my job was to manage a portfolio of marketing activities to hit our acquisition cost. Some were higher, like radio. Some were lower, like that Yahoo 1999 Roses ad. So managing this portfolio to hit that acquisition cost target becomes, I wouldn't say a simple exercise, but it helps simplify it from a finance and a kind of economics perspective with the finance team as well.
Sure. So in the example you just gave, what you talked about was kind of rolling up, was kind of calculating cost, revenue, profit across the entire portfolio of products, right? I imagine there are scenarios where you want to be more specific and you want to look at, like, let's say you're a company and you've got two products. One is much more profitable than the other, right? So in a case like that, I think you probably want to look at the profitability and the opportunity for each of those products separately.
The answer is kind of yes and maybe, because it really becomes more of a customer-focused analysis as opposed to a product-focused analysis. So if you're seeing a particular customer buying a more profitable product, then you may be able to invest more in that kind of a customer going forward to buy more of that kind of a product. So I really want to, I encourage people to keep it focused more on the customer rather than the product. You should, before you launch a product, make sure it's hitting your profit needs. Working with a client right now who unfortunately has told us we can't be pushing a particular new product they launch because they're losing money every time they sell one of them. And we're thinking, why did you launch it in the first place? So that kind of obviously homework and rigor needs to go in upstream before any of this work can be done.
Is that a function of not knowing that customer very well?
Yeah, I think or in maybe the rigor of the financial analysis around the new product was not as strong as it should be.
Okay.
And perhaps it shouldn't have been launched, or maybe they assumed they were going to get to scale quickly enough such that it would be profitable, but since the sales units weren't where they need to be, the costs were way too high. So those are kind of separate issues. But in this case, understanding the basic acquisition cost across your various channels can help you start to prioritize where you should put your money.
Okay. I love that you came prepared with an example. I think people really can get their heads wrapped around a concept like this better when we've got something concrete. Any chance you've got another for us?
Yeah, I have another one that's more tied to kind of lead generation, which is, sometimes can be a little more of a complex subject. And in this case, it's a kind of a wealth management firm example. And remember before I mentioned, typically in a consumer business, you look at a 3-year lifetime value or lifetime revenue. With a wealth management firm, clients may stay around for 10, 15, 20 years. So in this case, you may want to look at a 10-year value of a client. And typically, a client in a wealth management firm could have $1 million or $2 million in assets under management. In this case, we did the analysis and we saw the lifetime value was close to $200,000 in revenue generated by a client over the 10-year time frame, over 120 months. And when we looked at the profit targets and the cost, it was about $120,000 for the cost over that time frame and $30,000 for the profit from a target perspective. So this organization could actually spend $50,000 to acquire a new client because the client was just so valuable to them over that 10-year time frame. Then if we go back and look at our lead to sale conversion, let's say, for example, 10% of the leads who come in the door convert to a new client over the $50,000 acquisition cost, that will calculate to $5,000 cost per lead. And that could help you understand if you're going to do a seminar or some other activity, you could actually spend a lot of money on each lead because it's going to convert to significant revenue in the long term. So understanding that lifetime value, the acquisition cost, any of those conversion metrics, which are a little more upstream, again, from a lead to a sale, or at Jenny Craig, for example, a call to a lead to a sale, it can just help you be even smarter about how you spend your marketing dollars and where they should go.
So in the case of the wealth management firm, right, given that they had that much money to play with to generate a new client, what types of things were they able to do then from a channel perspective?
Well, what it did is it gave them confidence that if they, for example, run a seminar, I'm sure most of the people out there get these things, hey, come to a hotel or come to a restaurant and they get a free meal and listen to a pitch or something. If they were spending, say, $10,000 for that, but maybe out of each one they weren't generating any kind of new business, if they gave them confidence, maybe they should keep trying those over a period of time and maybe testing different content in those because they can afford to spend the $5,000 or the $10,000 per new client.
Okay, great. So let's take a break here. After this break between segments, we'll have another guest join us, the president of a client that Stephen has worked with. So please stay with us.
Securing Our eCity Foundation is a nonprofit organization focused on cybersecurity awareness and education. Formed in 2011, their mission is to enable every San Diegan to live, work, and play safely in the cyber world. For more information, visit securingourecity.org or call 619-630-2444. securingourecity.org, 619-630-2444. securingourecity.org.
Has your business been appified? Are you tired of doing marketing that doesn't deliver results? Mobile apps build loyalty and quality retention. Your app from UPG Mobile puts your business on their mind and at their fingertips. UPG Mobile will give you a custom app highlighting how you are unique, targeting your message, and improving your open rates. Appify your business and amplify your presence with your customers at upgmobilemarketinggroup.com.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
Kinja Dixon was crowned the #1 sales executive through hard work, deep thinking, and the revelation of universal talk laws. He now wants to share these lessons with you. Universal talk laws are what you need to know and use in business and at home to have successful and effective conversations. Kinja Dixon shares his wisdom, action plans, and wealth. Each book comes with a chance to win $10,000. Find Universal Talk Laws at kinjadixon.com.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Small businesses are the lifeblood of America's economy. Every Thursday, SBA Radio interviews industry professionals and is dedicated to provide small businesses with timely insights and innovations. Visit www.sbaradio.us for details.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
Welcome back. This is your host, Bill Wynn. Today in the studio with me is Stephen Bellach, principal at Bottom Line Marketing. We are talking about calculating customer economics. Before we return to that subject, I want to remind all the listeners out there of our next signature event, which is Trends in Restaurant Marketing, Wednesday, January 17th, 7:30 a.m. at the Fruitcraft Tasting Room and Kitchen, which should be a fun and interesting event, whether you work in restaurant marketing or not. So, Stephen, I think I mentioned right before the break, joining us at this time is a client of yours. Purusha, are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, great. So this is Purusha Rivera. She is the president of My Baby's Heartbeat Bear. Purusha, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your product and your business, if you would, please?
Sure. So I have been an ultrasound tech for 18 years now. And I started out in a hospital, and as my family grew, I decided that I would look for a more flexible position, and I ended up in an OBGYN's office doing ultrasounds. At that time, the 3D ultrasounds were just starting out, and we decided that we would offer them to our patients. And it was great. We had a lot of customers, and you know, I had one patient that reached out to me asking for if we were able to record their baby's heartbeat on a stuffed animal. And I thought, what a fantastic idea. This is something I wish I had had for my kids. So at that time, I started searching, how can I find this? And I went online looking for a Heartbeat Bear kit, and I was unable to find anything. And for a long time, I was purchasing stuffed animals and recorders from different companies, putting them together, hand stuffing the animals, and I couldn't keep them in stock. They were just, everybody wanted them. So at that time, my fiance asked, he thought that it would be a good idea to cut out the middleman and try to start producing these on our own, which is what we ended up doing. And when I finally got my first shipment of products in my hand, I realized that it was so much nicer than anything I had been able to get from these different companies that I was purchasing from. And I thought, you know what, there's other OBGYN offices and 3D ultrasound facilities that are going to want this. So ultimately, that was really the start of My Baby's Heartbeat Bear. We really just started reaching out to different 3D ultrasound facilities, and we started a website, and we made cold calls, and before we knew it, we were actually making money. So that's how it started, and we've been in business about 6 years now, and we're doing really well. We're actually selling internationally all over the country. It's been great.
Awesome. So, Stephen, how did you and Purusha get connected up?
We were actually introduced to Purusha about 3 or 4 months ago through a friend of ours who was doing some digital marketing for them and doing a great job, primarily on the SEO front and some Google shopping. And in the conversations with Purusha, he realized it was time for them to start to expand their horizons and expand their range of activities. And we've worked with him on some other projects together. And so he introduced us to Purusha and Sheldon, her now husband. And we had a great conversation about how we could help them. And interestingly, the conversation started with customer economics because they certainly needed some support around the brand messaging and around the marketing plan. But in talking about the economics of their various channels, it became eye-opening in terms of how they might want to think about managing the business going forward.
Okay, and so Purusha, who are the customers that that buy your product? Who do you sell My Baby's Heartbeat Bear to?
So we sell almost 95% of our business is wholesale, and that's to OBGYNs, hospitals, 3D ultrasound facilities. We've actually started selling to bereavement programs, and the other 5% is really through our website, direct to consumer, and that is mostly to expecting moms.
Okay, got it. So Stephen, in terms of those channels and working with Purusha, what did you guys learn about the economics of their customer base?
Yeah, so it was very interesting because, and again, thinking about that kind of marketing finance relationship, we ended up working with their accountant to access their P&Ls and understand their sales through these various channels, wholesale versus direct to consumer, and at the time, the bulk of their marketing activities were against the consumer channel, and it was really more kind of word of mouth and outreach, and hoping people would come to the website on the wholesale side. And through the analysis, though, we discovered that we could pay enormously more to acquire a wholesale customer, because the value of a wholesale customer, obviously, because they're buying in bulk and they're going to have multiple purchases over a period of time, versus the value of a direct to consumer customer was, again, it was wildly higher. Because most consumers are only buying one, maybe, and I think in this case we discovered the average consumer was buying 1.15 purchases over an 18-month to 2-year period. So the value of the average consumer was maybe $50 or $60, whereas it was close to $1,000 for the average wholesale customer.
And I suspect that on the consumer side, most of those were just, individual pregnant families buying one and then the occasional gift, right? One of those same families was a repeat customer buying one for a gift. Is that kind of what you figure happened, Purusha?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And it was definitely eye-opening for us because all along, we were putting so much effort and money into trying to reach the expecting mom, and we weren't focused on the wholesale customers. So it's been an interesting shift for us, and it's kind of hard to wrap our head around it at first because we've been doing this for so long. But we're really excited moving forward that we have the information, and it's all there, and now we can measure what we're doing to see if it's working. And it's been, I'm really, really happy that we were able to connect with Stephen.
Okay, and so now, armed with this knowledge about the relative profitability of these various customers, right? How did that change the channel approach? And Stephen, I'll direct this to you, right? So, did that change the channels that you went through? Did that change the messaging from a digital perspective, right? Did that change your keyword universe and your content? What was the transformation?
And I would say all of the above. It actually started out, once we understand the economics of the channels and that we wanted to start to not 180 degree shift, but wanted to have a better mix of consumer versus wholesale. We actually went out to their facility on the East Coast and did a brand exercise to understand, because we really had never really thought about what are the benefits to the wholesale channel. So we did some interviews with some of the OBGYN, some of the 3D ultrasound facility owners to understand what benefits are they deriving from providing My Baby's Heartbeat Bear to their clients or patients. And we spent time with Purusha and Sheldon working on the messaging strategy.
Stephen, let me have you pause there. Can you describe those conversations a little bit? Like, what was the feedback you got from those customers?
One of the key takeaways was, of course, an OBGYN is developing a strong bond, for example, with their patient. But actually helping that patient get this lifetime keepsake of their baby's heartbeat, in the bear or whatever other animal they choose, really strengthen that bond. So we came up with some, what we all agreed was pretty powerful language around, we're going to help you strengthen your bond with your patient. Mm-hmm. So it became more of an emotional connection as opposed to just selling a product. And so that became pretty powerful for the wholesale channel communication.
Okay.
And then what we did is we started to work with all the marketing resources that Purusha had already assembled. So she had a copywriter who was writing blogs. So we said, okay, now instead of just consumer focused blogs. Let's create a mix of wholesaler-focused blogs around the messaging strategy we came up with, as well as continuing with some consumer. We worked with actually the person who brought us in on the digital side on the SEO front and said that we can't give up consumer SEO, but let's start to find ways of reaching and building those backlinks and other kind of key SEO practices around the wholesale channel. We also talked to their PR agency, who was at the time 100% focused on the consumer channel, and said we need to start to think about how we're going to reach some of the associations and other trade magazines and other periodicals that the 3D ultrasound and OBGYN customers might be reading and communicating those key benefits. So it became, really kind of a transformational shift in the way the organization approached marketing.
Okay. And what digital channels does the company go after, right? Is there a social component? Is it social advertising? Is it display? Is it search advertising in addition to SEO and organic? Stephen?
Yeah, I can say they've done an amazing job on the social front. In terms of content, there are well over 100 blogs. There are dozens of incredibly well-produced videos. And in some cases, we said, let's slow down. Because we're spending so much money creating content, we need to start to put some of that money to work for us through social channels, through some paid social, through a bigger investment maybe in paid search and some Google shopping type things. And since we know what the economics are, we can start to ramp up the investment because we know what those targets should be.
Okay.
So we can be much smarter about how we spend the money.
All right, so we're up against our last break. Purusha, can you stay with us for the final segment?
Sure.
Okay, so we'll be right back talking about calculating customer economics after the break.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
Nowadays, internet devices are an integral part of your home. Everyone in your family has a smartphone, tablet, or a computer. Life is easier knowing that all your devices are secured and your family can surf the internet carefree. ESET Multi-Device Security Pack does just that. One license for all your devices. With ESET, it's simple to stay protected and save money. Enjoy safer technology with ESET Multi-Device Security Pack at ESET.com. That's ESET.com.
You may have heard me brag about Progressive Medical Center and just how much they've helped me with my health. And Dr. Goley, one thing that you've helped so many people with is migraines.
Unfortunately, there are millions and millions of Americans who are suffering with migraines and headaches, and they're debilitating because it affects the quality of their life, and they cannot function properly. At Progressive, we get to the root cause because we understand that migraines could be caused by nutritional deficiencies, hormonal imbalances, believe it or not, delayed food sensitivities. And once we determine what the real reason is, we put a plan of action together with medication that we get them off slowly, and we put them on an all-natural approach, and the results are amazing.
Incredible. I mean, there's so many people that can say they don't live their lives with migraines anymore thanks to Progressive Medical Center.
And that's what's exciting and rewarding to us as physicians because we help our patients take control of their health, and that's why they're living well.
Why don't you get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today? Don't live in pain. Don't have migraines anymore. Just go to their website, progressivemedicalcenter.com.
This is your life. Live it well.
Did you know the majority of radio listeners are between the ages of 35 and 54, have a household income of more than $100,000, are classified as executives or professionals, and share the show they listen to? Become part of the Peggy Smedley Show to reach listeners looking for information on connected devices through cost-effective radio commercials or segment sponsorships. Contact us at 630-933-0844 for more information or visit PeggySmedleyShow.com.
Talk to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Welcome to This Week in Marketing, brought to you by the San Diego chapter of the American Marketing Association.
Welcome back for our final segment. This is your host, Bill Wynn. We're talking about calculating customer economics. I'm joined on the show by Stephen Bellach, principal at Bottom Line Marketing, and by Purusha Rivera, president of My Baby's Heartbeat Bear. So before the break, we kind of talked about Bottom Line and My Baby's Heartbeat Bear's experience with calculating customer economics, the realization that the wholesale channel was so much greater a part of our business, both from a volume and profitability standpoint. So that really meant that not only could we spend more acquiring a customer, but it changed kind of the tone and substance of a lot of our marketing to focus on that different market. You mentioned some of the inbound things from a content perspective, but Stephen, from an outbound perspective, how did the mix change? Right. So in terms of social or email or other channels, what did you experience?
Well, what it allowed the team to do was really start to test some various activities, whether it be in social or email. The team had already been doing a fair amount of paid social, but now there was some content created, or a couple of videos, some blogs targeting the wholesale channel, and Purusha actually implements this herself. So we're starting to do some paid social, promoting those videos, promoting those activities. We're able to target through Facebook targeting those types of entrepreneurs who have their 3D or 4D ultrasound facilities. So we're starting to see some engagement. Again, it's very early. So again, we're still kind of testing what content is going to generate the most positive results. But more importantly, on the email front, we're starting to do some outreach through some list rental. There are lists out there. And list rental, as I'm sure most people know, can be pretty dangerous because you're spending money on a CPM basis. But the important thing is to have the metrics in place. So if we know that we could spend X dollars to acquire that wholesale customer, over time, we could at least evaluate, we could test a channel. And if it's hitting the metric or coming close to the metric, then we could start to expand and maybe expand into that list. But if you're flying blind without understanding the metric, you're just going to spend the money and not know what you're getting in return for it. Just from some other basic activities that this analysis influenced, on the website, there's a lot more content now and beefed up content in terms of appealing to the wholesale channel. And on the email front too, there wasn't an abandoned cart email series against the wholesale channel. I think there was one, but we're starting to build that out. And we're also starting to build out an email welcome series for wholesale customers. So when somebody starts to buy, we're engaging them over a 26 or 52-week period to retain them as customers as well as upsell and cross-sell them.
Is there a marketing automation platform in use now?
There is not anything from a kind of a complex perspective, but
okay.
That will be put in place.
Okay, got it. So, Purusha, what has your experience been through this process? And is it too early to say that we're seeing some upside from it, or can you share with our listeners kind of what your experience has been?
Well, we actually have started to see an increase in wholesale requests. And, I mean, the information that we got after the evaluation was amazing because we truly were spending so much money trying to reach the consumer, and we had so many customers, that we weren't really focused on. So it's been great, and we have a good plan in place. We've shifted our focus with our blog to kind of reach the wholesale customers more, and again, the emails. I think emails have been huge, and just being able to give them the support, the marketing support, let them know we're here, we can help you, give you ideas on displays, and just work together with our wholesale customers to sell the product. And before, we weren't focused on that at all. So it's been really a great experience overall.
Great. And on this show and in some of our other content as a chapter, we've done a lot of events, and we've done shows around video marketing, right? The importance of video and how to leverage video. And Stephen mentioned that you're trying some video content. In your experience, Purusha, how effective is video proving to be?
Oh, video has been it's worked really well for us. We do a lot of, one of our products is a gender reveal kit, and the expecting mom can take a box home that has a stuffed animal with their baby's heartbeat recorded into it, but it's dressed in either a tutu or a bow tie. And when they leave the ultrasound or the doctor's visit, they can go home and be with friends and family and actually pull the animal out and find out if they're having a boy or a girl. And, describing that product in words, it just doesn't do it justice when you actually have a video that's showing the excitement and the emotion behind it. It's like night and day. So video, it's my favorite thing to work on. I have so much fun. I definitely think that it's very effective, and it has brought a lot of customers our way.
And in terms of the channels where you distribute that video, right? I mean, I imagine it's on your website, but do you also push it out through social channels?
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram. We do have a YouTube channel, but social media has been huge for us. So, if you can get a video that you post on Facebook and it gets 500 shares, it's golden. So that's been, we've worked really hard on getting some good videos that really, show the emotion behind our product.
Great. So Purusha, when you started this business, obviously you had some pretty good business instincts, right? You came up with a concept that you thought would work, and at this point it's been proven to be true. What was kind of missing was some of the discipline around the economics, right? And by bringing in Stephen and his team, you guys were able to put some of that discipline in place. How glad are you that you did that?
Oh, extremely happy. I knew very little about business. I knew a lot about expecting moms and pregnancy, and I've always loved and had passion when it came to those to pregnancy and birth. So I knew I knew who we were trying to reach, but I knew nothing about the business side of it. And bringing them in has really given us, the tools that we need to grow and actually the direction. So now at least we have a plan in place. Okay, here's the numbers. This is what we can spend. This is what we can expect to get if we spend more. And they've been great. And I'm really happy that we use them.
Great. And have you increased your marketing budget overall as a result?
So it's interesting. We haven't increased the marketing budget, but we have kind of made a shift in, capital or working capital versus non-working capital. So not spending more yet. We probably will do that in the future. Right now, we're just kind of trying to get everything in place and make that change, so that we're marketing more towards the wholesalers and less to the consumer.
Okay, great. So we've got about 30 seconds left. Stephen, any final thoughts on the importance of calculating customer economics?
Yeah, I think hopefully the audience has taken away from today, marketing is really an analytical function. We all see the creative and the beautiful pictures, but if you don't truly understand the economics of your customer and what you can afford to pay for a customer, you may be wasting your money. You may not be, but it starts with the basics, and I encourage people to start there and give it a shot.
Okay, thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on This Week in Marketing.
Securing Our eCity Foundation is a nonprofit organization focused on cybersecurity awareness and education. Formed in 2011, their mission is to enable every San Diegan to live, work, and play safely in the cyber world. For more information, visit securingourecity.org or call 619-630-2444. securingourecity.org, 619-630-2444. securingourecity.org.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Has your business been appified? Are you tired of doing marketing that doesn't deliver results? Mobile apps build loyalty and quality retention. Your app from UPG Mobile puts your business on their mind and at their fingertips. UPG Mobile will give you a custom app highlighting how you are unique, targeting your message, and improving your open rates. Appify your business and amplify your presence with your customers at upgmobilemarketinggroup.com.
Looking to be a successful entrepreneur? The virtual assistant industry continues to be a top choice for those looking to start their own business. The problem can be how to become a virtual assistant. Many turn to the Bible of the VA industry, the book Virtual Assistant, the series, and it's the perfect guide for office managers, executive assistants, and other administrative professionals looking to make the transition from employee to successful business owner. Go to vatheseries.com to get your copy today.
Hi, Scale listener. This is David Finkel, co-host with Jeff Hoffman of Scale Your Business. I wanted to let you know that our newest book, Scale, was just released, and to encourage you to get your copy. The book will give you 7 proven principles to grow your business and get your life back. Scale will help you work less by getting your business to produce more. Get your copy online or at your local bookseller. For more information, visit us online at scaleyourbusinesstoolkit.com.